This week on Empowering Midlife Wellness, I'm talking about a unique approach to changing our relationship with alcohol, which I found really inspiring in my own life, and I hope you will too. Hi friends, and welcome to this week's episode. If you're just joining me, I'm Dr. Susan. I'm a board-certified gynecologist and certified menopause practitioner, dedicated 100% to taking care of women in midlife. Women just like me in perimenopause, menopause, and beyond who want to feel great right now and also want to do everything we can to build the healthiest elderly version of ourselves. And that starts right now because, like everything in wellness medicine, we want to prevent disease from happening rather than reacting to it after it's already there. So everything I talk about has something to do with that. And today I'm going to talk about alcohol, specifically a really unique way of reframing our relationship with alcohol so that we might choose to never drink again, or we might choose to drink a little. But in any case, really recognizing that if we're drinking alcohol regularly, in any amount, in some way it's preventing us from reaching our fullest potential, which is a really interesting thing to consider. Because in our culture, I think alcohol is often considered all or none. There are those who are alcoholics. We might consider that they have to go to a 12-step program and never drink again. Many of us don't resonate with being a problem drinker to that degree. But if we're drinking alcohol regularly, we are experiencing some problems that we might not be recognizing. So that subtlety, I think, is where we can really be honest about what's going on. Just like we wouldn't wait until we're diabetic to intervene with reducing sugar and processed foods. We wouldn't wait till we have a heart attack to do the things we need to do to keep our heart healthy. We don't want to wait till we get a DWI, get in a car accident, or get arrested to recognize that alcohol might be causing some problems for us. So I'll tell you my personal story with how this works. So I made a video a few months ago about alcohol, and you can check that out. I talked a lot about making a very honest inventory of how much we're drinking. Just as a reminder, the way we count the amount that we're drinking traditionally is 5 ounces of wine, 12 ounces of beer, or 1.5 ounces of liquor would be one drink. So as I mentioned in the previous video, many of us are not drinking 5 ounces of wine. You know, those big burgundy glasses often are 8 or 9 ounces. So just being honest about how much we're consuming. And it can be very humbling. In my case, I was drinking more than one drink a day by that measure. And for the past year or so have been actively reducing that. But I came across this amazing community called 1 Year No Beer recently. As it sounds from the name, the idea is to give up alcohol altogether for a period of time. It might not be a whole year. The first challenge that I'm halfway through right now is giving it up for 28 days, maybe extending to 90 days and even a year if you want to, with the idea that we can choose to drink again if we want to, but we might very well choose not to at the end of that journey because we've noticed all the benefits that come from giving it up. So 1 Year No Beer is an amazing community. It's originated in Britain, but it's now spread throughout the world. Really inspires us to consider how alcohol might be holding us back from our fullest potential, and also to interact with other people who are on the same journey, which has been really inspiring. So now, a couple of weeks into it, as one would expect, I'm sleeping better, my moods are improved, my concentration's better, I'm reading books at night where I used to just fall asleep. I'm not reaching for a glass of wine when I come home from work because I'm stressed. Just starting to think differently about it. I measure my sleep with an Oura ring, as you know. Notice a big improvement in deep sleep, even after 2 weeks. So these small things that can add up to a lot really make a difference in our lives, even if we don't necessarily identify ourselves as having a problem with alcohol. So check out 1 Year No Beer. I actually ran across them, ironically, because on a certain Sunday morning, not too long ago, I had a couple of glasses of wine the night before, woke up with a bit of a headache. I hadn't slept really well. What I usually do when I'm feeling like that is I tune into a health podcast. So I happened to come across this podcast, I'll put a link to it below, with founder of 1 Year No Beer, Rory Fairbanks, who was talking about his own personal journey with alcohol and just really inspired me with this idea that we don't have to commit to giving it up altogether, but that the most useful intervention that we can make that will be the most successful at having us change our relationship with alcohol long term is time. So simply taking a block of time to get alcohol out of your system is the best way to motivate you to continue doing that because you feel so much better. So this goes back to what we know now about education, whether it's in schools, personal development, organizational psychology. Anytime we want to motivate someone to change or learn, we're much more likely to be successful if we encourage them to be intrinsically motivated, to be inspired to do something because they really believe in their why, rather than telling them they have to do something from outside. So in this way, if we experience ourselves how much better we feel without alcohol, we'll make a positive choice not to add that back, not because something terrible happened and we have to, but because we want to feel better. And that really resonates with me. And like I said, I'm noticing a huge difference already after only 2 weeks. So check it out. It is a really interesting way to think about taking control back in our lives so that alcohol isn't making decisions for us. We're not reaching out to have a glass of wine without thinking about it. We're drinking mindfully if we do drink, counting what we're drinking, taking into account the health consequences and making a mindful choice. In the future, if I decide to have a glass of wine, I will do it knowing that it's going to mess up my sleep. I'll probably have a headache the next day. My athletic performance is going to be reduced. I'll probably feel a little depressed. If I drink in the future, I will do it knowing that that will happen. And I might do that. I'm going to Europe in September. We're planning to taste some wine. That probably will happen, but it no longer is a mindless automatic thing so that alcohol has control over what I'm doing. And that's a very empowering, I think, and very positive way to look at it because, again, to make change that's long lasting, we want to be inspired and we want to remember why we're doing it. So my why is I want to improve my relationships, have better sleep, think more clearly, be able to write a book this year, grow my business. All of those things are improved when I don't drink. So it just makes sense that I'm not going to want to pick up that glass of wine. Or if I do, I'll have very little and I'll do it in a mindful space knowing that the next day is going to be less than ideal. So I do invite you to check it out. And if you want to join me in the 28-day challenge, go ahead, join in. We might catch up with each other on Slack. But I've really found that a very useful way to approach it. So I think that's not only a really useful and positive way to approach reducing alcohol, but it also makes sense with the lives that we live. Now, I can tell you all day that there are numerous terrible health effects of drinking alcohol regularly, and most of us know those. I talked about those in my last video, but most of us are aware that alcohol, even at the 1 drink a day level, like I was doing, increases the risk of cancer, including breast cancer, as well as multiple GI cancers, of course, liver cancer, liver disease, messes up our gut biome, kills bacteria. You know, we use alcohol to sterilize wounds, so it does a really good job of killing the bacteria in our gut, increases the risk of diabetes, heart disease, weight gain, Alzheimer's, disrupts sleep, relationships, accidents, everything you can think of is affected negatively. But we cannot ignore that it does have a positive effect too, which is why most of us turn to it. It's got a huge pro-social element. In my family, I mentioned we collect wine. I have a wine cellar. We travel and taste wine. Drinking with friends and having people over to dinner and sharing wine is part of what we do. And so the idea of giving it up can feel very scary. And recognizing that that is a thing that we can work with. One of the ways to do that is to use alcohol-free drinks. So I bought every kind of alcohol-free wine that I could find. Some of them are actually quite good. And I've gotten in a habit now of pouring a glass of wine with dinner that looks exactly like the red wine that's being consumed by other people in the family. So I can still feel like I'm part of the group. Yeah, it tastes okay, but it's kind of tricking my brain into thinking that I've still got that stimulus, which is a really important part of habit change as well. There's some great alcohol-free beers out there as well for those of you who enjoy beer. So that might be a way that you can still enjoy the pro-social benefits that alcohol does provide. Now, many of us also turn to alcohol because it is very effective at reducing stress, but only for a very short time. Similar to sugar making us feel happier, that works for about 5 minutes, and then we have multiple downstream deleterious effects. But we can't ignore that alcohol is a very effective short-term stress reducer, which is why many of us turn to it at the end of a busy workday. So recognizing that those things are real, and also recognizing that the reasons why we drink might be because we're numbing some pain that we haven't faced. It might be past trauma, might be not liking what we're doing in our lives, not liking our relationships, not liking our jobs, being unhappy with where we are in our lives. As long as we're numbing that, we're not going to be able to move forward with creating a solution. But taking a significant break from alcohol allows us to be able to evaluate those things. And studies have shown that even giving up alcohol for 28 days, people are inspired to make really positive changes in their life because they can finally see what's truly happening. As well as that, of course, they lose weight, their lipid profile improves, sugar improves, sleep improves, moods improve. And of course, when we notice all those benefits, naturally it's going to be something that intrinsically we want to continue. So again, like anything we talk about here, we don't want to wait till we hit rock bottom and have a car accident, a DUI, a relationship fall apart, something terrible happen due to alcohol. We want to address it before that happens, just like we wouldn't wait to have a heart attack until we intervene with healthy heart habits. We wouldn't wait to be diagnosed with diabetes before we start cleaning up our relationship with sugar. Perhaps we shouldn't wait until we have liver failure to reduce our alcohol consumption. Hey, so I'm going to hijack this video and jump in with a real life example of how this works. And where real life meaning they're building a house next door, there'll be leaf blowers. I just got back from my morning run, and this was the best run that I've had all year. And it's not coincidental, I think, that I've now been a couple of weeks without alcohol. I've noticed my resting heart rate is lower. When I'm running, my heart rate's lower despite it being really freaking hot in Houston. So normally about this time of year, running, my heart rate would be higher. It's harder to catch my breath. So exercise tolerance is improving. Sleep is improving. Now, yesterday I had a really stressful day. So coming back to how when we're alcohol free, we can have a clearer mindset where we can really step back and evaluate what's going on. So now I'm going to take out the capital T traumas. So we're not talking about days when you found out you had cancer or your spouse left you or your parent died or something like that. Let's not be talking about those. But I'm talking about the regular everyday stress. So yesterday, really busy work day. One of my colleagues has COVID, so she was out. We had to reschedule her patients. My office manager's on vacation. I'm building a house and something didn't go the way I wanted with that. There was just a lot of things coming at me that I don't like this type of thing. You know, that mental state where I don't like this. Like it's a very common feeling that most of us are familiar with. So when we have that feeling, it's called aversion. These things are happening. I don't like it, right? That feeling. Frequently, we perceive that as stress. We want it to change. I don't like this. I want something different. And a very common thing we reach for in that situation is alcohol. So we talked about how alcohol is such a fantastic, very short-term stress reliever. So after a day like that, typically in the past, I would have come home and poured myself a glass of wine. It's like almost like a reflex. So I had that same trigger. I didn't drink alcohol. I actually didn't want to. I'm really enjoying watching this experiment. And then I followed my own advice and the advice of the 1 Year No Beer team and did something different. So here's the part that we can actually put into practice. When we have a clearer mind state. Now, granted, my mind state was full of cortisol. I was full of, I don't like this. So my mind state was pretty fired up. But I was able to step back for a minute and say, hey, what is something else that you could do to relieve stress in this situation? And then I go back to my list. Okay, so it's great to have a list. I love the saying,
If you want to feel good, do things you feel good about. So I go back to my list of things I feel good about, and it's great to have a list. It's kind of obvious, but you want to write them down sometimes. Move my body, so some type of exercise. Eat some healthy food. Fill myself with nutrition so that my brain's not full of chemicals and sugar and processed things and alcohol. Do something with other people. Get out of my own mind state, so spend time with family. Read a book, don't watch television, do something else. So I have my list, and I said, okay, I'm going to do all those things. So I ate some healthy food. I did a ride on the Peloton. I got my kids and we went and played pickleball. They're home from college, so that was really fun. I read a book and I got a good sleep. And then I woke up and I felt great. I'm like, yes, I did it. I felt successful. If I'd had a bunch to drink and had a crappy sleep and woke up with a headache, I would have felt bad about myself. So because I would have not done things I feel good about. So remember that if you want to feel good, do things you feel good about. And when we're alcohol free, this is where it makes sense. We can step back and see a bit clearer, even when our mind is super confused and fired up and, wow, don't like this. I want it to change, that feeling. When we don't like things and we want them to change, we're going to be much more successful at making a positive change, something that's going to have good, long-lasting effects if our mind is not sedated with alcohol or other similar things. So then you can wake up and feel successful and be like, yes, I nailed it. I did something good. I feel good about myself. So I woke up this morning. I've got another stressful day facing me. I'm about to head into the office now. I love my job, but sometimes it's a lot, right? It's a lot to do. So I thought, okay, what am I going to do before I go to work? So this is my other point. Start the day with a small success. Okay, I had a good success yesterday. It was a really tough day and I ended up on a good note. Start each day with a small success. So woke up, what is it that I could do to make today feel successful? Even if nothing else goes my way today, something that I can do right now. So I got up, just got back from my run. I went on a run, turned out to be the best run I've had. I had some really great insights and thoughts, some really positive things. I waved at people who were going to run me over at the pedestrian crossing. Instead of being like, fucking drivers, I was like, hey, good morning. Different mind state, right? There's no such thing as a bad day. And I'm not taking out the capital T traumas in general. No such thing as a bad day. It's just bad in our mind. It's the way our mind processes what's happening. So when you do these things over and over, they become a habit. If every day you start your day with a small positive change, a small success, then whatever else happens doesn't matter. And you're going to go into those other things with a better mind state. So it's going to be less likely that things will not go your way. It just makes sense. You got to just try it and see if it works. What do you have to lose? Try it for a week. And don't forget that menopause makes this all worse. You might have been able to drink 10 drinks when you were 19, like my college kids do. Frankly, their metabolism's not like ours. So when we're menopausal, we cannot process those toxins anymore. It's totally different. It's a new world, ladies. We've got to get that stuff out of our system. Talk to you soon.
So check out 1 Year No Beer. I've been really inspired by what I've learned inside myself, even in the past 2 weeks, and really excited to see how the rest of this journey is going to go. I'll keep you updated on that. Don't forget to check out the video I made a few months ago about talking about alcohol a little bit more from a perspective of the damage it does to our health. But again, today we're really focusing on what we do want with habit change, not what we don't want. So thinking about who you will be when you're alcohol free. And I can tell you, I want to be someone who can drink as much as I want, as often as I want. And that's going to be very little because I benefit so much from not having it in my system. So that's what I have to say about alcohol. Check out 1 Year No Beer. Join me on my 28-day alcohol-free challenge. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to share it with your friends, subscribe, and I can't wait to see you next week.